This is probably one of the most unfortunate stories you're going to hear, and it happened in Etasol Hotel and Suites, Ojodubega, Lagos State, Nigeria. Now, a 56-year-old woman known as Mrs. Olusola Olosoga and a 39-year-old Mr. Tunji Omekunle were both said to have been beaten and strangled to death. Mrs. Olusola, the 56-year-old woman, was said to have been living in London peacefully with her family. This is a woman who has been living there for the past 30 years, almost all her life in London, before the tragic incident happened. She just decided to return to Nigeria. Okay, she has been sending money to Nigeria for them to establish a business for her, which is the hotel, Etasol Hotel and Suites. So when she felt like the hotel was ready, she decided to come back. It's not an easy thing to be building an hotel and you have somebody else overseeing it for you. You have trust issue. Even if it's your sibling, you have trust issues. So she decided to come back to personally oversee to the affairs of her hotel. Not so much was said to have been known about her husband, but she was said to have had 4 kids. One of them was said to be a singer, popularly known as Melissa Whiskey. She moved to Nigeria the year 2018 and the incident happened 2019. On the 25th of January 2019, Mrs. Olusola was said to have been sleeping in her hotel room. Mr. Ehizjoge Vincent Jeffrey was said to be her supervisor at the time. Mr. Ehizjoge, who felt like the boss was wealthy, given the fact that she just returned from Yankee, she just come back from UK, she's supposed to be loaded. Somebody who just returned, she's supposed to be fully loaded. So he was like, her hands are not free. You suppose they dash people money. Probably she wasn't the type who was always flaunting money, flaunting her well. Probably she worked hard to get the money, so she was using it carefully. And to Mr. Vincent Jeffrey, it was annoying. You just came back from UK, show us love, give us money. Since he wasn't seeing what he was expecting, he decided to call as a supervisor that he was. So he decided to plan with 4 other workers of Mrs. Olusola. 2 were said to be staffs at the time, while 2 were contract workers. Mr. Henry Lolo and Okechi Light Ezi were said to be co-staffs of the hotel, while the other 2 contract workers were addressed as Dubai and Dangote. Now, the 5 of them, the 5 main crew, decided to sit down and plan. They started planning on the 24th of January 2019. Late hours of 24th January, they sat down. This is an hotel. We need to wait for them to sleep. Securities to go to sleep. We need everywhere to be quiet before we can start our operation, so nobody catches us, so everything will go smoothly. But how do we do this? Since there are other staffs working there and it won't be easy to convince them, they decided to prepare noodles, popularly known as Indomie, and added a sleeping stimulant, SK, inside the noodles. They served this to every other staff who were not part of their operation or their plan, except for Mr. Tunji, the manager, the 39-year-old Tunji Omekunle, who was the manager of the hotel. When they got to Mr. Tunji's office, being the manager, all the keys to the hotel rooms were in his possession. So they needed to gain access to Mrs. Olusola's room. And the only way they could gain access to her room was first gaining access into Mr. Tunji's office. So they entered Mr. Tunji's office, but the mistake they did was not serving him the Indomie they served every other staff. So when they got there, it was difficult for them to collect the key they needed. So they had no option but to strangle him to death. So they unalived Mr. Tunji and tried to collect the key. In the process of trying to collect the key, they were still fruitless because the key they were looking for was not in the possession of Mr. Tunji. They, however, still made their way to Mrs. Olusola's room, where they broke into the room, and this woman was sleeping peacefully. She did not have any form of worry, any form of problem. She already had a good family, a good business. So she was sleeping peacefully. When they broke in early hours of January 25th, 2019, when they broke into her room, she was a bit surprised. This is a woman almost in her late 50s. So she was surprised. What are these young men doing in my room this early hour of the day? Let's say as early as 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. She was shocked. But these are people working, at least she was able to identify them. These are people working for me. Before she could say Jack, they tied her up properly. Some sources said she was beaten with sticks. She was beaten with some objects and they strangled her to death. While some sources said she was tied up properly. And due to the way they tied her, the pains, given the fact that she was already aging, before they even finished robbing, she died. They stole some golds, jewelries, and items worth about £100 as at 2019. And they also stole money from her. So after stealing everything, they could not leave the premises with the items they stole because there were securities everywhere around the hotel and police officials. Now my question is, you are coming for this kind of operation. Why didn't you make an exit plan, a successful exit plan? So you made plans to come and steal, you did not make plans to leave. So they had just two options. Is either they go with the items they stole and they get caught because you are living with they stole a lot of money and other items. There is no way you are living there and security won't check you. This is an hotel and the CEO was there. So they had just two options. It was either they go with the things they stole and they get caught, or they let go of the stolen items and run for their own life. So they went with option B, which was letting go of the stolen properties and running for safety first. So they all escaped successfully. Now that morning, Mrs. Olushola's 12-year-old son had woken up from sleep. He was ready for school. He had already prepared himself to go to school. So he decided to go inform his mom that he was ready for school, probably for driver to drop him off. Or maybe his mother was the one who usually drops him off. Only for him to meet his mom unalive. So he started crying. His cry alerted security and other staffs. At that point, most of the staffs have already woken up. Their eyes were already clear from the sleeping pill they added to the Indomie. So the people started running into the crime scene and they saw what happened. Police had to clear the whole scene. While they were interviewing Mrs. Olushola's daughter, the singer, she said these men that came to rob, these men that unalived her mother and the hotel manager, that they were no longer staffs of this company. They were no longer staffs of the hotel, as they were fired already following a fraudulent act. They were accused of fraud, so they were fired. They were no longer staffs. Now, this makes more sense as to why they wanted to rob, because we've been fired. So even if we steal and unalive her, we don't have anything to lose since we're no longer working for the hotel. So all of them left the crime scene successfully. Police removed the corpse, took them to the mortuary, to the morgue, and they started their investigation. Some sources said they tried destroying the CCTV camera so as to do a clean job. However, they brought some experts who were able to assess the footage from the CCTV, and they were able to see most of the evidence they needed, how the whole incident occurred, and they were able to identify Mr. Vincent Jeffrey, Henry Lolo, Okechi Light, and Mr. Dubai and Dangote. Investigation started immediately. They did not waste much time investigating. They started investigating almost immediately. Days later, days after the whole incident, I think early February 2019, they were able to trace Mr. Vincent Jeffrey to his hideout in Port Harcourt. That's the ringleader. Police tracked him there and arrested him, where he confessed to have actually planned the whole killing with 4 other men, which he mentioned their names. When they asked him how he came about the whole plan, he said Mr. Henry came to him and told him that their CEO, which was Mrs. Olushola, came back to Nigeria with a lot of money. So she kept the money inside her room. Since she's very rich, she's too stingy, so they should rob her. So he bought the idea. He loved the idea of unaliving her and stealing some of her properties. So Mr. Henry suggested the idea of them preparing noodles and lacing it with SK to serve to the other staff members who were not part of their plan, so they can go asleep while they operate. So he told Henry to prepare the noodle as agreed, which Henry did. They served the other staff members, and that was how they started their operation. Immediately they arraigned him to court, since he saw that this thing has gone out of hand. They are actually very serious, and I might die. He decided to change the story. This was the same person who gave his confession that he was the one who came up with the plan. He even went as far as mentioning the other accomplices, only for them to now arraign him to court. He decided to change his statement. He started saying, retracting from his first statement, that he was even shocked when they told him that his madam was dead. He was like, I didn't know. How happened now? What killed her? That kind of expression you give when you are shocked. That was how he started acting. So the justice who presided over the whole matter said she didn't buy into his retraction, given the fact that they already had confessional statements against him. And CCTV footage also corroborated the statement he made, giving evidence and all the exhibits they had. They had to sentence him to death by hanging. Up to today, they say yes, they sentenced him to death, but till today, no news or information has been had about the other 4 accomplices. So personally, I have a few questions to ask. If truly, like Miss Melissa said in her statement, that these people were already fired, how did they gain access to the hotel? Was the hotel that loosed? Was the security not that tight? How were these people able to sit down, plan all these things, prepare Indomie, carried out their whole activity without anybody noticing or seeing them? Could it be that they had somebody else aside the 5 of them known? Could it be that there was an insider? How were they able to enter the hotel? Were there no securities personally assigned to late Mrs. Olusola, being the CEO? Yes, the police has tried by catching the main ringleader. But what about the other parties? Were they not part of it? What will happen to the other 4 people? The person who prepared the Indomie, the person who came up with the idea of unaliving her, what happens to them? I feel personally they should also face the law and face the consequences of their action, because you can't just unalive people and go scot-free. I feel the police, this, even if it's 5 years after, they should still look for these people, and justice should be given to late Mrs. Olushola and Mr. Tunji. All the persons connected to this crime, I feel they all should be sentenced to death. For me, nothing is actually difficult in this country. How was Mr. Vincent Jeffrey caught? I guess probably they tracked his phone, they tracked him or something. The same thing can be done to the other persons. So why are they not facing the law? Why haven't they been found till today? This is already 5 years. Why have they not seen them? Why can't they find them? Was it just Mr. Vincent Jeffrey that committed the act? No. There was a conspiracy. They all hatched the plan. They conspired to unalive Mrs. Olusola. In the process, they even unalived Mr. Tunde. So why are they not all facing the law? Why did they have to just sentence Mr. Vincent Jeffrey? For me, I feel they should look for each and every one of them, one after the other. Wherever their hideout is, look for them one after the other and sentence them. This is Nigeria. For me, I believe there is nothing that cannot be done. This is Nigeria. If they want to catch them, they can catch them. If I were Miss Melissa, late Mrs. Olushola's daughter, I won't even allow this thing to go scot-free. Everybody must be caught. Everybody in connection must be caught. CCTV footage and everything has showed that these people committed it. Why are they not facing the law? Why they never catch them till today? Even if they leave the country, we see politicians that has committed crime and they are looking for them, that has left the country. One way or the other, they trace them, they bring them back. Talk more of people that committed a crime in Nigeria. Please, what do you think about this whole thing? Do you think there is something more to it, or is fishy? Why do you think the police are still yet to apprehend the other 4 suspects? Why do you think they've not really apprehended the other 4 suspects and has equally not sentenced them to death as Mr. Vincent Jeffrey? Don't you feel they should also be punished? Please, whatever you feel, or whichever way you see this story and how you feel it should go, please drop it under the comment section, because I feel these people should also be punished. So if you also feel they should be punished, please drop it under the comment section. And please, don't stop supporting the channel. Even if you're not seeing Mr. Daniel, keep supporting the channel. Keep sharing the story so everybody will be careful. Because this life now, we all need to be extra careful. Innocent woman, we don't hustle all her life. She has hustled and hustled and hustled. Only for her to come Nigeria, make she come focus on her business. Person we don't they work almost all her life. Do you know what it takes? 30 years she has been working her ass out only for her to come back to Nigeria. And people we don't know how she take work and money don't on her life. They feel say she's stingy. Was it easy for her to make that money? It's not easy to survive in UK, even if I never go there. I'm not saying no easy. May their souls rest in peace. But please don't forget to drop your comments. Don't forget to drop your opinion.